Hi all, it's Miss Gross. Today we're going to talk about geometry angles. Before we get started though, you will need your guided notes that look like this. You're going to cut them and you're going to put them in your red notebook. The four types of angles we're going to talk about today are complementary angles, supplementary, adjacent, and vertical angles. Pause the video so that you can write this down in your red notebook. All right, welcome back. The first tab is complementary angles. So when you open that tab up, what you're going to see is two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. So in order to be complementary, the two angles have to add up to be 90 degrees. What I like to think of is a corner. Usually corners are 90 degrees and two angles that add up to be 90 degrees are complementary. So if you can think of it as complementary corner. And an example of this, WXY is complementary to YXZ. Those two angles add up to be 90 degrees. All right, the next one we're going to talk about is the second tab over, is supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 180 degrees. So these two angles add up to be 180 degrees. And what I like to think of here is straight. Supplementary makes a straight line, two angles that make a straight line, or two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. And so the example here is HIJ, which is 120 degrees, is supplementary to JIK, which is 60 degrees. Those two angles add up to be 180 degrees. And the third one we're going to talk about, the third tab over, is adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles that are side by side. They share two things. They have a common vertex and they have a common ray. And at the bottom, put this in, they may or may not be congruent. They can be congruent, but they don't have to be. And the way I like to think of this is my corner of my desk is adjacent to Miss Hahn's corner of her desk. So my room and Miss Hahn's room are adjacent to each other. They're next to each other, side by side. But my corner angle where my desk is and her corner angle where her desk is are side by side. And in another example of this is ACB, which is 75 degrees, is adjacent to ACD, which is 105 degrees. They are side by side. They share the common ray CA, but these two are not congruent. However, my corner desk is about 90 degrees. Miss Hahn's corner desk is about 90 degrees, and so ours would be congruent. So they can be congruent, but they don't have to be. And finally, we're going to talk about vertical angles, which is the fourth tab over. So go ahead and open that one up. And vertical angles are two angles that are formed by two intersecting lines, okay? So when your lines intersect, these are always going to be congruent. And congruent means they have the same angle measure. So what congruent means is they have the same angle measure. And so this one would be like the Y and the 65 degrees. Those would be vertical angles. They are opposite of each other and they are congruent. Another example of this would be this one right here, which LMN and OMP, they're vertical angles. They're opposite of each other. They're 40 degrees. LMO and NMP, those are also vertical angles. They're opposite of each other, and they're 140 degrees. Now, they only have one thing in common. Vertical angles, besides being congruent, they only have a vertex in common. So if you'll notice, M, their vertex is in common. M, their vertex is in common. And that's the only thing they have in common. They do not share a common ray. All right. So if you need to go back and watch this video again, and make sure you have your notes down, and then you're going to practice. The checkpoints are posted on Summit. I have some IXLs that you can practice, and then also you can check out the Measuring Circles PFA resources for additional practice. And as always, you can check out other math help videos on my YouTube channel. You can click on Summit to get there. Or if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.